Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review. Welcome back to another exciting installment of Build the Batmobile by FanHome. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another installment of the FanHome Build the Batmobile. Yes, this is the car from the classic 1966 TV series. And hey, when this series came out in 1966, I was only 5 years old, so I don't remember it then, but I do remember the reruns being played on my local TV station out of Phoenix. And that was back in the 70s, I believe, so I enjoyed this immensely. So, as you know, this car has been available and it's been out there for a little while, so if you haven't subscribed to it already, I suggest you head over to FanHome and subscribe to this today. If it's not available, just click on the button there that says you're interested in it, and I'm sure they will bring it back. But if you missed out on this, I'm really sorry that you did, because this is a lot of fun and it's going to be a real beauty in 1/8 scale. This is fantastic. So like I said, head over to FanHome and start your subscription today if you're able to. So in front of me I have 6 more phases. We call them phases in this build instead of stages. 6 more phases, phase 45 through 50. So we're almost at the halfway point with this build. And this is out of pack number 10. So number 10 received 45 through 50. So let's see what parts we received with this pack. 45 is the rim. 46 is the tire itself. And 47 is the other half of the rim plus the bat hubcap. 48 is the radiator. 49 are some of the hoses for the radiator. And 50 is the intake, the filter intake and hoses for the engine. Let's go ahead and get started. The first part of this video, I'll go ahead and combine 3 of the phases, phase 45, 46, and 47. Let's look at the build instructions for each of those. And this time we show the rim here, and that's simply all we do here is assemble the wheel components there. And next for stage 46, we get the tire here, and we show how the wheel component goes on that tire. And lastly, stage 47, we get the other part of the wheel or the rim there. And put that on. We'll put the CP screws into it and the 2 AM screws to put on the backing plate for the brake. And we'll install that on the chassis. Now let's look at all the parts for 45, 46, and 47. Here's 45. Let's get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. This part here is made out of metal. Very nice. And then the spokes themselves, the chrome spokes, is plastic, chrome plated. Next is phase 46 part. That's the tire. Let's get a closer look. And here it is. This is the good old wide oval Firestone. Very nice there. Nice tread pattern. And the last of the parts is phase 47. Let's get a closer look. AM screws, CP screws, and lastly the FM screws. And the other part of the rim, made of metal. Love the hubcap, the bat hubcap, along with the plastic cap itself and the spacer or the washer for that. And there you go, there's a wheel and tire assembled We did this before, so I didn't show you how I did it, but obviously the CP screws went into that. Those screws are designed for plastic because it's screwing in on the plastic rim there. But it looks good. And then we're going to put the backing plate on for the brakes. This came with a stage 39, and that's going to go down on that like that. And we're going to put some AM screws into that. They're going into metal. So I'm going to lubricate those screws with some 3-in-1 oil. And there it is, mounted to the back of the rim there, the brake drum there. And that's what the front looks like. Now we'll go ahead and mount this to the axle. Okay, we're going to mount the tire to the right rear axle. And I'm going to take my FM screw here, and I put a little oil on it, 3-in-1 oil. And I'm going to get the thread started. I'm going to start it as straight as possible and get the thread started before I put the tire on. This way I know I'm not going to strip it out later on. Go ahead and put the washer on it. Spacer or washer, whatever you want to call it. Mount the tire and wheel to this. And just a little loose. I don't want to roll that much, but there we go. It is. And there you go. That's what that looks like. And we can put our hubcap on. And that's good there. Perfect. Okay, that completes phase 45, 46, and 47. Let's get started on phase 48. Phase 48 is assemble the radiator. Pretty simple there. Be using AP screws for that. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. Here's the parts. Let's get a closer view. Here's the parts. Radiator's in 2 halves, the front and the back. This will be the back side because that's where your hose hooks up to. All made of plastic. This is the top of the radiator and the bottom where it will mount to the chassis with these tabs. Everything is plastic. AP screws. And here's the radiator assembled with the top and bottom installed. If you'll note on the top, these actually snapped in place over those tabs. The reason why it snapped in place is because on the other side you have indentations for these brackets that stick out. So this is the front of the radiator right here, and that's going to mount to the chassis, obviously, to the front core mount on for the radiator. And then the bottom one snapped in place also. I'm going to go ahead and put the back side on, and that's simply just going to go down on it like this. And I may have this wrong. Turn it over. There we go. So we want the larger opening on top and the smaller opening on the bottom. And that's the way your screw holes line up. Just like that. We'll go ahead and put 4 AP screws into this. And there you go. There's the screws installed. All the AP screws. And just don't over tighten them because you are going into plastic. You could strip it out. This is the top here. This is the back of the radiator. We have the larger end there and the smaller on the bottom. This will mount to the chassis here. And this is the front. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on phase 49. Phase 49, we're going to fit the radiator to the chassis. We have all the parts involved with that, some of the radiator hoses, the radiator water outlet, bypass tube, and lower radiator hose, and of course the filler top. So we're going to completing the radiator. We're going to build more onto that. And we're going to put on the lower hose. And then we're going to fit the radiator in place with 2 AM screws, making sure the lower hose is hooked up to the bottom of the radiator. Then we're going to fit the water outlet on top to the top of the radiator hose. And we're going to put on a fuel pump hose also on the left side of the engine. And that's what it will look like. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. Stage 49 parts. Let's get a closer look. And here's those parts. The parts for the radiator itself over here with the filler cap on top. Drain hose. This looks like our fuel line. Upper radiator hose. That's well detailed there. It looks just like what an upper radiator hose would look like. Has the markings on it and everything. If you look closely, look at that. Very cool. The lower hose, very nice. And the water outlet coming off the block of the motor. AP and AM screws. We're going to fit the radiator support to the radiator, and we want to have the radiator turned over like this. This is the front side of the radiator here. This is the back side. So we want to lay this support down on top of those brackets on the other side. And you can see there's holes here for installing AP screws. So we need to turn this over and line those up with the AP screw. 2 on each side. And the screws are installed on each side. You can see it's not quite flush to the radiator right there on each side, but they are tight. This is the front of the radiator. Now we're going to go ahead and assemble the cap and install the cap. And I stand corrected, that is not the fuel line, that is the radiator overflow hose that we came with this stage. And we're just going to take and insert this cap onto that. It only goes on one way. You can see it's keyed. You want the hose to come out on the left side of the engine, so make sure you have it inserted to where it is doing that. This would be the left side here, and we'll insert that down. There we go, just like that. And that way the hose will drop off. Okay, there you go, just like that. And that way the hose will drop off on the left side of the engine. Okay, we're going to take the smaller radiator hose, we're going to hook it up to the bottom of the water pump right there. Alright, let me show you what I've done so far. I went ahead and I took the hose, the smaller radiator hose for the bottom, and I mounted it to the radiator first, and then I lined it up and the radiator to the chassis. That way I was able to press fit the hose onto the bottom of the water pump, and you can see that there. Now we also have to install the fuel line. So the silver fuel line coming off the front of the water pump, and that's this right here, that's going to route to the back of the radiator, or the back of the carburetor. Turn this over. So there's our fuel line running up the front of the engine, underneath this line, and to the back of the carburetor. There's a tab that sticks out, and that's hooked up. Now, as far as the radiator goes, after I mounted it down, I put in 2 AP screws on the front. Our AM screws, but they're going into metal, so I put a little oil on them. And you can see how the hose looks on this side of the engine. And I went in afterwards and I applied some CA glue or super glue to both ends of that radiator hose. Now I'll install the small bypass hose for the water pump outlet. And that's going to go just like that. I put a little CA glue on there. That's ready to go. And this other end is going to go to the top of the engine block. Okay, that's going to mount to that tab there. Just like that. And then we're going to mount that down into those holes, and they just snap fit. Perfect. And we'll take our radiator hose itself, and we're going to mount that to the radiator. So that's going to go there, and that's going to go there. Perfect. And that's how that looks. I'm not going to glue that. I'm going to leave it as is. And that's all I do with stage 49. Let's head over and do the final stage for this video, stage 50. Here's the instructions for stage 50. We're going to work on the top of the engine, and we're going to install the air filter and all the hoses associated with that. Fantastic there. Very easy to do. Going to assemble the air filter first. A few steps involved, and that's going to mount to the top of the engine. That's great. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. Here's the parts for phase 50. Let's get a closer look. And here's those parts. Here's the air filter assembly, made of plastic. I love the color of it. The top of the air filter, the little wing nut for it, the hoses, very nice, all made of plastic, and some AP screws. And I assembled the bottom of the hose onto the bottom of the filter assembly, and that's what that looks like there. Put an AP screw into it right here. We're going to bring the top of the hose, and we're going to mount that down on top of it, and 2 AP screws go in from underneath. And the 2 AP screws are installed. Try not to over tighten those. We'll turn it over. We're going to put the next hose on. And it only goes on one way, and it's a press fit. You can see that. So it's just going to press fit down on top. Now let's go ahead and install this on the engine. You can see the lower of the filter, which will mount down on top of the carburetor, just like that. And 2 AP screws will go into that. And there we go, both screws are installed. And we'll bring over the top of the filter, and it's got 3 tabs, press fit down. Just like that. That looks good there. And lastly, we'll put the wing nut on. That press fits down on top of that. And there we go. And that's what that looks like there. That completes phase 50. Very easy to do. This was a lot of fun. I'll be right back. And there you go. That completes pack 10. We completed 6 more stages, 45 through 50. And it was a lot of fun. Very easy to do here. I highly recommend this build. Head over to FanHome today and subscribe to this if you so choose. I put a direct link down below. So if there's anything you still want to see with this build between now and 50 all the way up to 1, let me know. I can do a video for it if you'd like, to highlight some of the stuff I've done with this, but it's been very easy to do so far. So if you like my content, please subscribe to my channel and remember to smash that like button. It really helps out. Happy modeling, everybody, and take care.